So we do see Damian come out also again, seemingly trying to make it seem like he's going to cash in, but of course he doesn't. He just pulls up a
Of
chair and
course he's not.
watches. But then when he's like stands up and is thinking about maybe cashing in, he is met by Drew and then they get into a brawl. So other than being disappointed about Seth winning, because I do think he's gotten boring, and that's from someone who's like, Seth is probably one of my
A
favorite
Seth
wrestlers of
fan.
this era.
Big Seth
Yeah.
fan.
That was disappointing, but I do feel like Damian being out there, which, didn't love it. Drew coming out and them fighting over this. It seems like they're definitely setting something up for the Elimination Chamber, which,
Mhm.
because like we said, Seth seems to have been injured and being potentially seriously injured, because they said, one, that he spoke to the ref like immediately as the match was over. Two, he needed help to the back. And three, they are saying that he's going to probably be getting an MRI. So we won't really know the details of his injury until tomorrow or Thursday, is what is being reported, at least. Originally, I'm like, okay, Drew and Damian being out here, okay, even Jinder being involved.
There's a lot of
It
heads. There were a lot of heads out there in the main event.
Yeah, and so it seems like, okay, that's the foundation for an Elimination Chamber match. But then it's like you get thrown in a wrench into it, because if Seth is out for a lengthy amount of time, he's going to have to vacate the title, because even if he doesn't miss Mania, you can't be keeping the World Heavyweight title on him for the next 2 months and then be like, well, he'll be back by Mania. It's
And then
like,
you have
but
2 champions that are not on your weekly
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. They
broadcasts.
can't do that.
You can't.
So then that throws everything that we've ever predicted about what could potentially happen from the Rumble and to Mania out of the window. So, but it almost is like, okay, and I don't mean this regarding Seth's injury at all. Hopefully it's not serious. And if it is serious, I hope that he heals up and everything is fine and he can be back soon. But
Mhm.
it's almost like a blessing in disguise, potentially, because as I said, Seth's reign has become very boring. So if this gets the title off of him, okay, there's a win right there. Okay, as far as taking the title off, not the circumstances in which it happens. Two, then that means that Punk doesn't have to win the Royal Rumble because nobody's the champion. So he doesn't have to win the Rumble, because if they were only going to really have him win the Rumble so that he can main event with Seth Rollins, that's not the case anymore, because if he has to miss Mania, then Punk doesn't need to win the Rumble. The other thing is, what's interesting, when the theory that I was thinking was, if he does have to vacate it, I think that they should keep it vacated for a bit until Elimination Chamber. So I think that whoever wins the Royal Rumble will be the one to pick the World Heavyweight title, right? But they will face whoever like the 5 people are in the Elimination Chamber. And whoever wins the Elimination Chamber, maybe they can become the champion. Or
Mhm.
it could be like 2 number 1 contenders, like the person who wins the Elimination Chamber will face the person who won the Royal Rumble, and whoever wins at WrestleMania becomes the new World Heavyweight Champion.
Mhm.
Also, that can happen, and the person who is the other person in the match doesn't have to be the Royal Rumble winner. Maybe this is the way that they have Cody win the Rumble and he goes after Roman again. I don't love that scenario, but it definitely changes things if he's going to be out for some time, which I think is like, that's a significant factor to impact all of this, because I mean, generally you kind of already know who's going to win the Royal Rumble and how that story is going to play out between now and Mania. And so if Seth, who's the champion on Raw, is going to potentially miss the Royal Rumble, potentially miss WrestleMania, then everything is thrown out, because it's like, now you have to rethink everything.
Mhm.
So I'm very curious, other than the fact that, obviously you don't want someone injured. I'm very curious to see what the severity of the injury is and what that could mean for like how this is
Yeah.
going to play out.
I'm very curious on how serious the injury is before I let my mind, uh, start wandering to different paths on how we're gonna get to a WrestleMania main event of some sorts. I mean, easy right now off the top of my head. If Seth does miss, worst case scenario, I think Dickie says it right here. Best case scenario, Seth just misses the Rumble and still has a match by Chamber. Worst case, Seth vacates and the Rumble win is for the title. That was my thought.
I don't like the
Was
Rumble
that
win for the title.
I in any you know what? In any other year, I would disagree with you. This year, can't do it. Because say Cody wins.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's too many factors because then for the most part, you would assume whoever wins is going to be a Raw superstar because they're going to want to keep them on Raw.
Exactly. So you kind of screw yourself there.
Yeah, so I think I like whoever like whatever my theory was, and like I said, it's not perfect. I literally just thought about it, but I like the idea of whoever wins the Rumble does have a main event at Mania, but maybe it's for the title, and then they'll maybe like pick whoever the final other 4 or 5 people are in the match. Maybe they're the ones who are in the elimination chamber, or they have a tournament to decide who the 5-6 guys that are in the elimination chamber that will all be vying to become the other contender for the title, kind of like what they were doing with originally when Seth won the world heavyweight title. They again the two to face each other for the title at Mania. To me, that's the most interesting way that you can go about it and the less predictable way, because I think like I don't think anyone would want to see Cody win because it's not the title you want to see him win. People don't want to see CM Punk win the title that way
I
by
don't
winning the
care.
Rumble and the title, and
No.
that's how he gets a main event. Like, that's so stupid. And
No, yeah.
uh
It actually it would sour his story too. It really
who
would. It wouldn't. CM Punk's, if that's how
oh
we got
yeah.
his,
Yeah.
it wouldn't. And as it's coming from a CM Punk fan, I would
Mhm.
hate that for him. It doesn't feel as authentic.
Well, that's why I was saying, like, for me with Cody, like, I don't want him to win the Rumble a second year in a row because that seems like such an easy way for him to get a rematch with Roman. And like I said, the only way that I would be more okay with it if I had to be is if he was literally number 1 and was in the match until the end. That's the only way that I'd be like, okay, like if this was the plan, then that's the easiest thing that they could think of, or the only way they wanted to get him to get back at Roman. That's fine. At least he didn't enter at 30, like at least he had to overcome 29 other dudes, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be something that we'll have to pay attention to over the next couple of days. Maybe we'll know by the time we stream again on Thursday, so we can kind of talk about it
Yeah.
in further
Oh,
detail. But
that'll be definitely.
um yeah, there's a lot of scenarios that are going to be riding on whatever ends up coming about for Seth's injury.